we're here. It's Elise here from Your Move here in Australia, and something exciting has happened. I've actually got friends now who want to talk about the same things that I want to talk about. I know that my clients are absolutely sick of just hearing me rattle on about all the things that I think about all the time, that I want to have friends that kind of feel the same way I feel about a lot of topics. And one of those is deep health. So a couple of weeks ago, I did a couple of posts about deep health where I explored a little bit deeper, more than what, say, I would have learned in the precision nutrition course, but also what most people get introduced to about deep health when they're hearing about it for the first time. So today I've got Rhiannon with me, and we're going to get deeper into deep health. So just say hi, Rhiannon.
Hello. I have to say you nailed my name. I
Okay,
didn't even
good.
think. How did you know that's the precise way to say it?
It just must be my accent. It must.
It was
Maybe
perfect.
just lucky.
Americans have the hardest time with it. They just struggle.
So Rhiannon, how about you just tell me where you're coming from? And if you just give some detail on how you ended up as a coach, who also loves talking about deep health.
Yes. Okay. So I am based in the Tampa Bay area in Florida in the United States. And I got into coaching actually because of my own need for a coach. So I had been a physical fitness and kind of therapy, postural movement coach with an online company. And we ended up moving to Los Angeles 6 weeks before the COVID everything happened and the whole lockdowns and the uproar and everything that went all crazy. And I found myself in a place where I was so stressed. I was feeling so much anxiety over all the tumult and all the things. And it got to a point where I actually could tell that my hormones were off. I could, you get to know your body and you kind of know. And I reached out to a woman who helped with hormone balance, and she basically just prescribed me some supplements. And I mean, I think there's a place for supplements, and I've used them before to some success. So I was like, okay, I did it. But after 6 to 8 weeks, there was just nothing changing. And one of them was giving me a negative reaction. She was like, well, don't do that. And it just felt like a big waste of time. So I stumbled by accident on Instagram a coaching group that was talking about some of the same fundamental things, and they were talking about helping with hormone balance. So I reached out to them, got involved with a coach who coached me for 6 months. He said, I don't take anybody less than 6 months. You have to have a 6-month commitment. And they ended up walking me through what I later realized were all of the fundamental principles of deep health. I didn't realize it at the time, but as I started walking through it, so he was addressing sleep and nutrition and all the things. And as I started learning and I started feeling my own body change, I was like, this stuff is amazing. This is just, and no supplements required. It was just these fundamental practices, right? And I was like, this is life changing. Everybody should know about this. And then I stumbled across precision nutrition, and I went, someone had sent me an article on deep health, and I went, oh, that's exactly what I've been learning with this coach. I'll bet they're precision nutrition coaches. And that's how I got into it. I was like, I have to share this with other people. This is too good and too easy for so many people in the same boat as I was in, who are struggling and just dealing with anxiety or hormone imbalance or wanting to lose a couple of extra pounds of fat and they couldn't get it off or whatever, or lacking in energy. So I was like, I got to do this. So I signed up. It was rather spontaneous. I normally don't do spontaneous things like that, like pay for something like that, but that's what I did. And I have absolutely been loving it.
Yeah, it seems like when you really start to understand deep health from a coach's perspective, you're like, oh, I've got the magic key.
Yeah.
And like from the client's perspective, it's like, this stuff is so simple. Why haven't I come across this my own? But also there's this other side where clients are like, oh no, it can't. I mean, if we look at deep health, it is, do you get adequate sleep? Do you feel calm and relaxed? Do you feel supported by your community and those around you? Do you feel supported by your environment, where you live, where you work, where you sleep, all that sort of thing? Do you feel pain-free? And also, are you eating, I kind of changed the wording on this, are you eating in a way which is conducive of your current goals / healthy eating?
Yeah.
When you think about those things, I find there's two things that happen. One is that some people feel like, oh no, it couldn't be that. That's too simple.
Right.
Or the other thing is that they're getting too specific into what they need to do. So if we're looking at healthy eating, some people, like you said, they're looking at supplements as their way out, or they're looking at, that one single ingredient, that superfood.
Yeah.
That's going to change their life.
The superfood of the moment.
So yeah, from my experience, and it sounds like it's been yours as well, is that sometimes, you can present, if you present the deep health directly, like, here, we're going to work on these 6 things. A lot of clients would be like, oh no, like, but where's my meal plan and where's my exercise program to follow? But I guess from that, why should somebody care about deep health? Why is an exercise plan and why is a meal plan not enough?
Yeah. So a lot of the times I think people want to be vibrant, and they don't know, most people know, okay, yeah, you need 7 to 9 hours of sleep. That's like an understood thing. How many people actually get it though? Consistently over time. Same thing with meal plans, right? Someone can prescribe you a meal plan. If that's the only thing you're micro focused on, food is an amazing tool. It's an amazing resource. But if you're getting 5 hours of sleep every night and you're stressed out of your mind and you're anxious and worried, there are still these fundamental areas. They're just going to be like, it's like a drain on your car battery. They're just constantly sucking life out of you. So food is made to do what it's supposed to do, but it's not supposed to take over for other areas of your life. So a meal plan is great, but it's not the be all end all of things. Just like supplements are great, but I mean, if you're missing those fundamental things, you can't supplement your way out of good nutrition, good sleep, all of that kind of thing. And I think a lot of people, they might know this information, so they'll go, oh, well, yeah, of course, that's really simple. I can do that by myself. But again, are they doing it? Do they know how to implement it and create those healthy habits over the long term? That's where we coaches come in.
Oh yes. Now, you did talk previously kind of about how you discovered deep health for yourself. You mentioned, the last 2 years being in lockdown and kind of all the implications that had. I have probably a similar experience, but when I reflect, I don't know about you, but once I discovered deep health, I looked back on my life and I was like, oh, it was at this point where my needs weren't being met, and this was the result. At this point, my needs weren't being met, and this was the result. So I have these waves in my life where I didn't have myself together, but didn't know why. And again, I was looking at those very low value, small rock, let's call them, like specific things, because I thought, no, it couldn't be my sleep. It couldn't be the fact that I was getting up at 5 a.m. and going to bed at 1 a.m. No, it couldn't be that. So my example with sleep is, I used to tell my clients, their biggest issue with sleep was often that they found it hard to get to sleep. They'd still have a great bedtime, 10, 11 o'clock, but it'd take them forever to get to sleep. Their other issue was that they were doing that crazy, like 2, 3 a.m. wake up, the one you're like super stressed.
Yep.
And I couldn't relate, because I was like, you know what? It's easy for me to get to sleep. So I decided that I didn't have issues with sleep. But upon reflection, and this is, a couple of years down the track, I'm like, God, Elise, don't you realize you were sleeping for like 4, maybe 5 hours a night?
Ooh.
That's not sleep. That's not
It's a nap.
But I just had a really long nap. So I was like, yeah, I'm awesome at sleep because I can fall asleep straight away. But like, if I really thought a little bit more, if I really looked into what constitutes good sleep, what are all those factors, I missed the one, or I looked over the one where it was like, I need more sleep.
Yes. Yeah, and it's amazing how you can even be just 1 hour shy of that goal of the 7 to 9 and really feel it. I have
Oh,
a client who that was actually the biggest change because she was already a really good, like she had a pretty good grasp on eating, although she needed some accountability just to kind of like stick with it and she needed to increase her protein, but um sleep was a real game changer for her. And she didn't realize how that she was actually only getting 6 to 7 hours on average until she started tracking it. Because I have them track it on I want them to put the number in. How many hours did you get every night?
mhm.
She was like, that after like weeks of it, she was like, that's been a game changer. I had no idea how much I wasn't sleeping as much as I should have. And now that I'm putting that number there and I know I have to put that number in there, I'm getting the sleep I need, and it's changed her entire. It changes the whole way you see the
Mm,
world when you get good sleep and you're basically nourishing yourself in all the different areas. But
yeah.
yeah, you were getting big naps.
Oh yeah, that's about all I was getting. But that pulls up some really cool points too. You mentioned that there was that awareness that you were able to provide for that client, and there was the tool that they used, so how to measure sleep. Was it quantitatively,
Yeah.
um, so that they could actually taking those actions. So what I find is that a lot of people who want to make changes just don't know where to start because they don't have either ways to measure or the tools.
Yeah.
When we're looking at the 6 measures of deep health, um, if you've got something different, please let me know. But what I always start with, once I've gotten to know a client, the next place I usually go is I go through those 1 to 10 scales. So we have your 6 deep health measures:
Yeah.
sleep, stress. Actually, but when you have the 1 to 10 scale, instead of stress, because like 10's the highest, 1's the lowest, but like 10's a good thing, 1's a bad thing. So if you have the word stress, well, then that's opposite. So I say feeling calm and relaxed for that one. Sleep, feeling calm and relaxed, feeling supported by people, feeling supported by environment, feeling pain-free, eating in a way which is conducive of your goals. I get them to rate them from 1 through 10, 10 being the highest, best ever, 1 being the lowest, worst ever. And they kind of put themselves on a scale. And then we start to see where they sit, where the problems lie. For some people, some numbers are really high, but some numbers are kind of like average or low. For other people, they're lucky if they're getting a 5 for
Right.
everything. And that's where we know that the deep health is super low. Do
Yeah.
you do anything different to that to begin with?
I don't. Honestly, I start really basic. So far, most of my clients come to me wanting fat loss, right?
Mm,
Except for the one, and she was really very happy with where she was at, but hers was a matter of energy and sleep. So I do a simple questionnaire where I get just a general baseline about what their goals are, and then as I go in with them, then we kind of like open up the areas, like
mm,
and explore. Like we start with the foundation of like, how much are you sleeping, what are you eating, what are your stress levels, and then if they say to me that they're really stressed, then we'll go into more of those kinds of things. But if they're not, if they're like, hey, I just really need some accountability and blah 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 blah, but I'm feeling pretty good, I kind of keep an eye on it, but I don't go deep dive into that right
mm.
off the bat. So just a little bit of a different approach.
Yeah, so you really make sure that it's client led and that they're telling you what they want, as opposed
Yeah.
to, from a coach's perspective, you know, imparting your priorities on the client. It's always got to be the other way around. It's always about the client.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I can get really excited about a lot of different things. And then just like what I'm very concerned about doing with my clients is just giving them so much at first, like just let me tell you all the things, and then being overwhelmed because I realized I had no idea what I was getting myself into with my own coach. I just knew I had 2 goals, and he said, I
Mhm.
can you reach these 2 goals. Here's what I want you to start doing here. And when I look back, he was a little less client centered than what I want to be with my clients. But he still did a great job with me. But he didn't tell me everything up front. He just let it kind of unfold gradually. And then I started learning it and going and connecting the dots.
Mm.
So some people I will ask, is this helpful to you? Is all of this, do you want more information? Do you want more? And they'll say yes. But I've got one, she's almost like I almost never hear from her because she doesn't want too much of anything. She just needs, she's got a whole lot going on in her life. So I don't want to add more to her. I want to be one of those things that is a support that gives her only what she needs when she needs it. So it's kind of, yeah, I take a really very individualized client centered approach.
That's actually really cool. I think for myself, I always feel like, what more can I be giving? What more do they need? Are you okay? Are you alive? Are you still there? Like, give me an indication that you're still alive. Send me an emoji. Make sure you're still there. What do you need? But I suppose from the client, what I perceive from the client's perspective sometimes is that, they want everything or they need it all and they need all the information. But from what I've found out and from what less is more. And we gotta fit ourselves as coaches into the client's world where they have competing priorities. They are busy having a career with a family and dogs and complex family issues and whatever's happened in the last 2 years. And let's add the stress of what's happening currently in the world.
Right.
A lot. We maybe have this much of a client's attention on a daily, weekly basis, and they have a couple of minutes maximum to give to us on a daily or weekly basis. So I suppose what I need to be clear with clients in the beginning is that, those less is more. It's going to take a while, but really what we're trying to teach clients is that it's not about instant gratification. They don't exist in a bubble. They're not on The Biggest Loser. This is not fat camp. They are trying to do some really life-changing things, and life-changing does take a lot of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
In my other job where I'm coaching people, and this is going to be, since you were in PT, you're going to know this very well. Like we tell people in the movement and people who are trying to basically rehabilitate their bodies, it took you years in many cases to get into this stage of muscular imbalance or dysfunction or whatever. And it's not going to take you just a couple of weeks just to pop out of it. Like it's going to take consistent, disciplined training, retraining of those areas of the body to get everything in order and functioning the way it's supposed to do. And it's very much the same with nutrition. It's like people want overnight results, and it's just, that's not real. Those are not realistic goals.
Yeah. I think the biggest struggle is trying to steer people away from what they see on, say, like social media, where somebody who's either the exception or they really just did not show what happened in the middle of their journey. This, what seemingly is fast progress, that person isn't you. And they probably may be that person that's operating in a bubble and they just so happen to have quit their jobs and invested their entire time and day into just fixing their health. So unless that's going to be you, which is not likely, these are the results you can expect. So I suppose as a coach, it's tough, but it's also the best thing we can do is really set those expectations to be realistic, and get people to understand kind of how long that's going to take. But also, I can give people an idea of what they can expect as far as the actions that they're going to do on a daily, weekly basis. But I can't tell them where they're going to end up exactly.
Yep.
You've probably had that same experience too. Say, for example, this is not my example because I don't really work with this type of client who specifically and only wants to lose, let's say, 20 kilos. What's that, about 40, 50 pounds? Yep. That's not my client. But if somebody came to me and that's all they thought about and that's all they came to you for, they didn't mention anything else as part of their life, like what would you do in that situation to kind of steer them into a way that's actually going to work?
That question is so appropriate for right now because I actually just took on a client that has been working with one of my friends who is a coach, or like a nutrition person, and she basically got her this person got stuck. Basically, she's been on and off diets, and her goal really is to lose 20-30 pounds in a short period of time. And I had to tell my friend, listen, if you're going to pass her off to me, I'm totally up for the challenge. I don't know exactly why she's stuck right now where she is, but I am willing to deep dive into this. But this much weight in this much time is not realistic. It can't happen. And we are going to address other areas of her life. And she was willing. So that's a very good thing. And basically, I want to help. I do want to help when my client comes with a goal of fat loss, for instance, and I can understand why they would want that. I want to help them achieve that goal. Um, but I know that it's like fat loss is so connected to all the other areas, right? I mean, it's like on the precision PN thing, it's like it's almost like a web, right? And it's so intricate and so interconnected. One thing affects all the others, and they're so, I don't know, symbiotically related, so to speak, that I really don't give my I haven't yet had a client that said no to the other things that I wanted to focus on. If I had a client who only wanted that and who absolutely rejected the other things, I think I'd just be straight up and say, listen, I'm happy to help you with just nutrition if that's what you want. But I've got to be honest and tell you that these things are affecting your journey here. And if you want to ignore those, then you might not get the results that you want in the time frame you want, and that's if their time frame is realistic. But I probably just would say, listen, this is what I'm going to tell you as a coach. You really need to do this. And it's with all the love and all the friendliness and everything I can muster, but I'm also very direct. This is an important part of, these are important parts of your life that can't be neglected because you're going to suffer. You're going to suffer somewhere.
Yeah. Look, I think that's a testament to you as a coach that you have the confidence to not just give in to what the client wants, but really come from a place of love and care where you want what's best for them, and they do need to have that little bit of tough love, that it's not just about, like we said, the exercise plan and the meal plan to lose weight. I talk about that as being like a Band-Aid approach. Like if you just got like stabbed in the guts and then somebody decided just to put a Band-Aid over it, that's how effective.
Hey, let me help you.
It's effective that's going to be. And it's not, the client can keep paying you and they're not going to get results.
Right.
And so you're really doing a disservice to your own business. You're doing a disservice to the person. And I couldn't think of anything worse. We're in this industry because we care about people. We want to make a difference. We want to, create that change. My job, which is all, a terrible business model, is that I don't want to see that client again.
Yes.
Because I've, fixed their problem. I've given them the tools. They've learned it for themselves. They have the habits. They have the behaviors. They're now independent. I work with women only. So they're independent women who can take care of their own shit and who they can coach themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm 100% on board with you. Totally about empowering people to be able to go and do this for themselves. Because that's what happened for me. Someone empowered me. Someone turned the light bulbs on for me. And I went, this is amazing. This is revolutionary and life-changing. Everyone should know about this. So I became empowered to go be a coach. I'd love to empower everybody to be coaches and then just keep spreading the love, get people healthy. Cause we have a culture. I don't know what it's like in Australia, but America, we've got a really unhealthy culture. And social media, back to what you said about social media, feeds into that. Because even a lot of the culture, I don't think I will ever use social media to show before and after pictures without at least giving the whole story and telling about these timelines. You see a before picture and after picture, and you don't know that it took 8 months for a person to work, or longer, to get to that goal, and all of the discipline and the consistency that was required.
Yeah.
They don't tell you that on Instagram or, whatever format you're watching. They
Mhm.
just start showing you the whole story.
I gotta be honest, for myself and I always felt uncomfortable asking for like a before and after,
Yeah.
especially when they're like basically in their underpants.
Yeah.
Usually they just put an emoji over their face from what I've seen.
Yep.
But I call them, and I call them Bondi Beach mugshots.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, think about like the Myrtle Beach mugshot.
Yep.
It's basically like you've been arrested at the beach, and these are the photos that they've taken because they always look sad, and they always take the side picture
Bad posture.
and the back posture. And I mean, I'm a very skeptical person, and I see those before and afters, and I see where they have made the before photos so terrible,
And then
and
second
then
is like
after picture
flex.
amazing.
Yeah.
But, these aren't my measures. I couldn't give a shit if a client lost scale weight. I couldn't give a shit if they looked exactly the same. I'm just so interested in, for me, how they move.
Yep.
That they have improved their mobility. A big test for me and my clients is I get them onto the floor and I'm like, all right, stand up.
Oh yeah.
In a nice way. I was like, how are you going to get up off the floor? What if you lost both your arms? All right, how are you going to get up now?
Yep.
These are things that are important for me. These are the type of clients that I am attracting and trying to attract. I don't, I mean, this is going completely off deep health, and I think you knew we were going to do this.
Yeah. Well, people like us like to geek out over stuff like this.
But yeah, like if I look at, I mean, I don't attract purely aesthetic clients anymore because I dropped that for myself. And a big realization that I had a couple of years ago was that I just stopped caring about the way my body looked. And I think my body's fine. And a lot of people would give me compliments about my body, and that would make me uncomfortable. One, and I was like, why am I uncomfortable about this? And it turned out to be this goes really deep into deep health about values, what I valued, and I valued more about what my body could do, not what it looked like. So
Yeah.
now
Yep.
when I'm choosing my clients, and I'm going to ask you about your niche as well and who you like to coach, I finally light bulbed. I was like, oh, this is not my people. If this was my people, I would want to guide them into being these people, which is, I care about what my body can do. I care about what I put inside my body. I care about being a nice person. I care about what I ultimately want to achieve in my life, which is really big. Instead of just, I want skinnier legs, and how do I get rid of my belly fat?
Yep.
And like, who's your person? Who's the person that you want to attract and that you do attract, and why?
We're very, very similar in those values, but mostly it's women who are experiencing a lot of stress, who want to lose some weight, but who also want to increase their energy and be present for their families. Those are the women who are coming to me. And because I mean, my kids are grown now, but I was that woman. I was a 20 and 30-year-old mom who didn't exercise at all, nothing. And I was exhausted, and I didn't know why at the time. I just thought it was motherhood. And then I got into the health and wellness, and I was actually a CrossFitter for 4 years. And I was in this community that was a really healthy mindset kind of community. I saw these other young mothers who had energy to crush it in the gym, and they were eating well and fueling their bodies. And I was like, wow, I could have used that in my 20s and 30s. And so I want to help young women who are lacking in energy and older women who are lacking in energy. I really do like working with women because I don't know why. I just do. But men are great too. Like my husband is, I'm trying to not coach him because family can be a little crazy like that, but he's got all kinds of goals that I'm trying to kind of work with him too. And he's not as much into geeking out over things as I am. So I have to give him just like the little pieces. Get your protein in, babe. Get your protein. Protein means muscle. Get the protein. So, but yeah, our values are very much aligned. I'm not into, oh, I'm going to help you cut. I don't even think I would ever want even a level 2 or higher, because I want to help people who need the foundations, just to live a thriving life. Like what I've called my nutrition consulting is beyond survival, because I think most people are just like in survival mode and they're just coping. And like life is so much more, life can be so much more than just coping with everything that it's throwing at you and just keeping your head above water, right? So I want to help people get on top of it and be like, hey, I feel great today. That's that, because I've been in both lands, and that's where I want to really help people live.
Wow, that was amazing. I just love listening to that. I also have, well, I have one token male client, and if you look at my website, it's very much I help women. This is women's problems. This is how I solve women's problems. Somehow he made it all the way through like my rigorous selection process and still showed up at my door. I've got this this chart back here. It's like the muscular system, and it's of a woman. I don't I don't hide who I train. And he was still fine. Maybe I was in the right area. So I have my one token male client, but I do know that I just gravitate the path of least resistance. The people I know most about, mostly because we share the same anatomy, experience growing up, is women. And so that's where all my energy goes towards. So when we look at deep health, you were talking about it as like a web before.
Yeah.
Not just a linear thing, but it's all, and I agree, it's all connected. Another tool that I do, and this is off of the PN, he didn't show it to me, therefore I just created it myself, is that if you've got a client who isn't really aware of how their deep health is affecting maybe the results they're looking for. So if we're looking at muscle gain, fat loss, weight loss, like those sort of typical things, but you're trying to get them on board with deep health. Mm-hmm. One thing that I like to do is I like to start off with their lowest value. So say, for example, for a lot of people, it's sleep or stress.
Yep.
So if they've done their 1 to 10 and we've identified their lowest deep health need and it was sleep, I'd put that at the top and would start mind mapping and be like, all right, so you're not getting a lot of sleep. You've got low quality sleep. You're going to bed with your phone and you're spending about an hour on your phone doing God knows what.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that poor quality sleep, when you wake up in the morning, what's the chain reaction? What happens then? And then we would mark the next thing. A likely scenario is if they don't get such good quality sleep, when they wake up, they don't feel like they've really slept at all. Maybe they sleep in. How motivated are they to then do the workout that they said they were going to do?
Right.
I mean, I don't come from a sciencey background. I just really go for I just kind of narrow it. I just kind of generalize a lot of things. But, when somebody hasn't had the best sleep or their whole hunger sensations are completely out of whack, and they're often going to look for something that makes them feel like they've got more energy, makes them feel more alert. Yep. Now, as life would have it, that's going to be your high carb items. That's going to be caffeine, which often comes with a lot of calories and that sort of thing. And we start to see this chain reaction where they're just looking for a meal plan and a workout plan. But, without any other intervention, one, they're not going to find that time to work out because they're too tired. And two, they're going to completely obliterate that meal plan because they're just trying to fuel themselves.
Yes. Yeah, not getting enough sleep. I tell people, because I have a very strict bedtime, I'm like lights out at 10 o'clock. I try to have a whole bedtime routine for myself where I wind down and I'm off screen, or if it's screen, I'm reading a book with like the red light. Because, and I joke and I say, yeah, if I don't get my bedtime, I'm just like a little baby, and tomorrow's going to be a bad day. It's just going to be a bad day. And it's because your whole outlook is affected by how much sleep you got. If you got a really great night's sleep, you wake up and it's like that quintessential commercial of like, it's a good morning, and everybody wakes up and they're in a good mood and they're ready to accomplish their goals and get their work done and get their workout in. And if they don't, it's like sluggish. And again, it puts you kind of in that survival mode mindset where it's like, I just got to get through the day, and you feel bad. So you're seeking comfort wherever that is, whether it's a comfort food or a comfort drink or whatever. So yeah, sleep. How did we get onto sleep again? But sleep is one, it's such a fundamental. I mean, for crying out loud, we make it such an important deal for little kids. We make sure our babies get good sleep. We have bedtime routines. We make sure they have a bath before bed. We read them a story. I mean, this is what I did as a mom, but like we do all these things to get our kids to get a good night's sleep because we know they're going to be little hellions and it's going to be nuts the next day if they don't. But we don't do the same thing for ourselves. What makes us think we're any different? We're all human beings. We're just older. So
yeah, we're old babies.
yeah, babies that
You
have big bodies.
you get so excited to become a teenager, to become an adult, because I used to use the phrase, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I did some like terrible things to my sleep just because I thought that I was invincible. And you can do that for a while. And even adults now, people in their 20s and 30s, they just say, oh, maybe their sleep has changed because they've changed their job. Maybe they're doing shift work now. And you can survive for a while without much impact until, a couple of weeks, couple of months down the track, and then suddenly things are falling off the rails. And what they'll wonder is, all right, what's different now? This week, what have I done differently this week to feel this way? I feel like crap. But what they don't realize is those couple of weeks, couple of months before, something big changed.
Yep.
You got to see that. You got to see, and it always comes back to, say, if somebody, got into shift work, suddenly gained, after 3 months, they gained 10 kilos, 20, 25 pounds.
Yep.
But they're like, oh, what have I changed? What am I eating? What am I not moving? But if we always go back to those deep health measures, there's that delay. And I think that's a bit of an issue that I need to make clients aware of, is that it may not be what you've done now. It's probably going to be something that's been building for a while. And I don't know if you've read Atomic Habits by
but I've heard of it.
James Clear.
Really good things. Yeah.
Yeah, highly recommend. I'm on audiobook because I like to multitask. And so if it's nonfiction, I'll go for a walk and I get to listen to my book. Yep. So that's a bit of a reward for me. Yeah. But he was talking about, like a block of ice. If you have a block of ice, you can raise the temperature and it won't melt. It won't melt. It won't melt. It won't melt until you get to a certain degree. And I'm not going to say it because it's Celsius or Fahrenheit. I don't know what the difference is. Yep. A certain degree, and then suddenly it melts. So you can be, really denying a lot of those deep health measures, but still getting by. And then you just get to that one thing, that one scenario, that one event, that one day where suddenly everything just falls apart.
Yep. The straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak.
Correct. So really it's just about taking clients back, those times ago, are just really assessing where they're at with all their deep health measures now. And then suddenly those answers are coming out. But in the moment, it's hard to think that.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm just curious. I'm going to ask you an unplanned question. Have you had many clients who were shift workers and they had to be shift workers? Like the one I just took on, this client, she is a nurse and she works really weird hours, kind of like the firemen do, right? Like 2-3 days on, then time off. And it's just, it's a lot. She doesn't get much sleep. So what have you done, if anything, for those clients who are unavoidably shift workers? They can't change their sleep cycles.
Yeah, I feel for them because I was there. And the first thing is I just make sure that they're aware that it is going to be harder for them and that their expectations need to be set. If they understand, we love talking about sleep first, but if they understand the basics of sleep and sleep science, they know that they're already a few steps behind, and that's not going to change. But then what I do is we look at all their other deep health measures and we make sure we are raising as many as we can. within what we can control. I think that's the most important part, is what can you control, what can't you control. If this is your career, if this is what you want to do, and if this is what you've signed up for, well, you can't control that. You can't just turn around and say, oh, I only want to work, 8 till 5. Thank you.
Right. Yeah.
But then it's just so much more important to deal with everything else.
Yes.
And make sure they are the best that they can be. Because often there's going to be, and this is another important part, is that there's that chain reaction. Again, we were talking about, if your sleep's not so good, it makes your healthy eating a lot harder. It raises your stress levels. So these clients, they just got to know, one, it's going to be hard, but two, you got to work your ass off. If you want results and specific results and these changes to happen, but you want, this is your career and this is what you sign up for as part of your job, then you are going to have to work extra hard in these certain ways to be able to mitigate the overall effect.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
good.
I think a weird one, again, which I think gets overlooked, and that's really important, especially if you've got your uncontrollables, like if sleep is an uncontrollable, well, that sucks.
Yeah.
Feeling supported by people, I think, is a big one that just gets overlooked. The fact that if you go home and your kids are just horrible, or your partner's
husband's discouraging.
Yeah.
Your mom's like, why do you have to be such a healthy eater?
Yeah. And that's a big one that I have experienced a lot from clients' perspective, is that they're just, they're trying to make all these changes, they're trying to do all the right things, and then one of the things that really isn't being helpful is kind of the other people that they have to deal with, or the other people that are supposed to be supporting them, being on their side, that are just absolutely not supporting them. You take, for example, a shift worker. If they're, how nice would it be if there was just food in the fridge ready for you?
Yeah.
Or or if some of the roles that you had to take on were being shared by somebody else, as far as cooking and cleaning, and and again, those things, how stressful is it if you have to cook a whole meal from scratch when you're tired and it's some ridiculous time, it's 2:00 in the morning, who knows? Versus, how much stress is taken away when you get home at 2:00 in the morning, you need to eat something because you haven't eaten for 5-6 hours, who knows? And there's just a meal there. Or the kids aren't asking you what's for dinner because somebody else has done it. Yep. So I think, feeling supported by other people and what that looks like, having those conversations, and what the results are, you can see how that would, improve stress levels, improve potentially healthy eating measures, improve a lot of things. Yeah, I did have a client who she wanted to make some really healthy changes, and she was doing a lot of the right things, but and this goes into environment and support by other people as well, is that her partner, his way of showing love was doing things for her, but unfortunately those acts of kindness and gifts were always chocolates. And he fixed up the pantry, but in the pantry he set up the deep fryer and the machines that you have that only create unhealthy food.
Yep. I actually have a husband who does that. He'll bring home things. I'm like, babe, why are you bringing home this? This is so sweet. I'm not eating this today.
See, I have that's he knows now. So I call it, and for me, like, if there is chocolate in the house, it doesn't last long. I think I could be a bit better these days, but like maybe when my deep health balance was out, my go-to was always, all right, what can I shove in my face to just soothe me and comfort me? So at that point in time, I'd call it the negativity. Please don't bring that negativity into my life.
Yeah.
And so I've always been much more appreciative of like plants and flowers as opposed to receiving chocolates and candy. So yeah. It's just that same thing. I have these goals, but I also have these temptations. You're trying to show love. you're trying to show care, but it's just not the way in which I want to receive it.
Yes,
And that's a tough conversation to have sometimes.
it is. It is.
Yeah.
You're like, I think your thought that counts. The thought does count, but the product doesn't count. I need you to return that to the store, please.
Yeah. And then, it can get more complex too. And maybe we can have a conversation about this the other day, because I love talking about values and how
Yeah.
values all play into this, because I don't like wasting food.
Oh gosh,
So,
yeah.
so I can't just symbolically like throw it out.
Yeah.
I'm going to eat every single one because
Yep.
I'm not going to waste food.
Yep.
So then this is where it starts to get really complex, and especially for an individual person where they have their own sets of beliefs and values on top of how they perceive their sleep, stress, support, all those sort of things. Like the solution is going to be so specific for them,
Yeah.
and the roadblocks, those things that come up, maybe they can try all these nice things, but then this roadblock's going to come up and it'll absolutely blindside them.
Yeah.
And it's all comes up because of those values, those beliefs, like what they decide and how they perceive things.
Yeah. I actually love that about coaching. The fact that people are so different, like you never know what you're gonna get, right? You're like everything's like this mystery box when you first meet them and you're like, okay, here's what they want. But let's find out like what are the factors that are, composing their life and creating what does their life look like. It's almost like, I don't know, I'm picturing there used to be like this little wooden puzzle. It was kind of like a Rubik's cube, except it was oddly shaped and you could like pull pieces out, but they were interlinked, so you had to find the right one first. And I can't remember, it was a long time ago, and I don't know how old you are, but you're definitely younger than I am, so I don't even know if you can imagine what I'm seeing. But basically it's like you get this person and you have to just figure out what solution is going to work for their very unique problem. And we have our fundamentals that you work universally for everybody, the deep health principles, but then there are like ways to go about accomplishing those goals. And that's going to look different for a lot of different people. So that's always a fun part for me. I kind of like the problem solving aspect of it.
Yeah, I always have to remind myself to really enter each conversation with clients with just curiosity. I keep telling myself, like, just be curious, just ask questions. Like, don't make any assumptions. I want them to tell me everything. Just lay it on me. And then, I call them snowflakes. You're like, you're a snowflake. You're not like my last client. You're not like my next client. Just assume that everything that we do is going to be very unique to you. And I think that's really important when people are looking for coaching and coaching services or health improvements, is that they need to find somewhere that's going to either speak directly to them, or, like you said in the beginning, it's not about what you want from the client, it's what the client wants from you.
Yep.
And doing exactly what the client is asking for, what their needs are, what they see as important. So I think that's important as well.
Yep.
Now, I do just want to ask you, we're going to wrap this up soon, but say if you've just introduced deep health to a client, what coaching advice would you have for someone that's now keen to take some actions? Like, where would you start? What advice would you give?
Just starting deep health principles?
Yeah.
I start them off with I create just a simple spreadsheet, and I hate spreadsheets. I'm not a spreadsheet numbers girl, but spreadsheets really help keeping track of things. But I just give them a spreadsheet that I make custom for them with their name on it. And we start tracking some of we track their nutrition, whether they're using the hand portion method or whether they want to use the macros. We track sleep, we track their energy, their perceived energy. So I just have them do a scale of 1 to 5. Like, how are you feeling? 1 is you're like a sloth coming, getting out of bed and you just feel like, 5 is you're superwoman on top of the world and you're ready to conquer everything. What else do I have them track? Oh, and their movement. And we just like start applying those things. And their mood also. I want to know what their mood is, because that's giving me a baseline of how what their mindset is like. And if they are, and over time, I can start seeing patterns. So I just say every single day, input this information for me. And sometimes if I'm dealing with a client that it's particularly challenging for them, I just say, just send me what you did today, and then I'll input that for you. But
Hmm.
tracking is really important, because tracking shows patterns over time that really reveals a whole lot. So, those are all of the things. How to go about applying them, I definitely get their nutrition game plan going so that they can be fueling their bodies with nutrition. I tell them shoot for 7 to 9 hours of sleep. I try to immediately have them practice putting their phones away, or whatever their screen time is, whether it's a computer or a TV. Just give them that 1 hour before bed, ideally, if they can. Some people are like putting kids to bed right until bedtime, and it's just like everybody's crashing at the same time. I mean, it works differently for different people, but um, just creating that peaceful, quiet, wind down approach. Those are just the fundamentals, and then moving their body and whatever that looks like for them. So some people are gym rats and they just want to be in the gym all the time. Okay, great. Do whatever you do in the gym. If you don't exercise at all, then we're going to start walking. And then eventually my goal would be get some dumbbells or a kettlebell and just do some slow weightlifting to like just get your muscles working. Those are my basic approaches. I keep it really, really basic.
Oh, that's good. It just, if I could sum it up, it sounds like tracking is the most important. Getting
Yeah.
that baseline, knowing where you're at now, because you don't know where you can go if you don't know where you're at now.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've just got a few big rock power moves as well, where, if you try A, B, and C, like that could be a vast majority of your results very quickly. So it sounds like you've figured out what's most important. Like you said, for the universal person out there, may not be for everyone, but for most people, if you just try A, B, and C this week, you're probably going to feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we can add as we go. Like that's what I love about it. I treat it like a science experiment and use this whole, basically it's the whole scientific method, right? You
Yep.
like, you make some observations, you form a hypothesis, then you test this hypothesis and see the results and how does it go? And then, you know, tweak it from there. Something doesn't work. Okay, it's not working. Let's make an adjustment. Or something's working amazingly. Well, let's standardize this.
Mm.
Keep doing it for as long as it's working.
Yep. Have you ever had an experience with a client where you gave them something to do, and then the next time they came back with some feedback, or you had a meeting with them, they tried it and they didn't stick with it, or they just, even though they said they were going to do it, it just never got off the ground? Has that happened to you?
Not for long term. I have had a client who she's inconsistent with tracking. She'll track for like 3 or 4, 5 days, and then she'll fall off for like 4 days. It's hit or miss. In that case, I gave her like subtle, hey, I really need to see your data. Data's gonna help me help you best, etc. Um, and then she was one who was just a little bit quieter. She was one who didn't really communicate a lot, but she's very busy. She's got a lot going on in her life, and I tried to just be understanding with that. And as it turned, and I honestly felt a little pressure because I was like, am I not serving her well? Because she's so quiet, and maybe, and everything I did to try to draw her out wasn't really helping. And I'm like, man, I hope she doesn't feel like she's out there in the universe all by herself trying to accomplish this. And then she came back to me. I guess her life had just gotten a little crazy for a little bit. She came back. She was still paying me the whole time. And this was only a matter of like a week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And she said, hey, I just noticed that like I was making really good progress and now I've just gotten stuck. And I know I haven't really been consistent, but what do you think? And I was like, yeah, that consistency is really important. And she got right back on the tracking, because she was able to see from tracking where she was making great progress and then where she stopped making progress. And because we'd been tracking all of the data, she could see the direct connection between, hey, you take accumulation of 2 weeks off from tracking, you're going to stop making progress. So the results showed her, spoke to her herself. I didn't really even have to do anything. That's what I love about this stuff. But yeah, I don't want to be a source of pressure. People are dealing with a lot of pressures already, and I don't want to be one more. So I just, reach out, send the pings out. And if I haven't had anyone bail completely. So that's good. It's just, if they're a little slow on the thing, then, they'll figure it out.
Yeah. And I think, again, we put pressure on ourselves as coaches to be like, how else can I help this person? Like, what's going on? And, I've done this to not coaches, but like other people too, where it's just like there's a lot going on right now. I just can't handle it, that I can't respond to it as, a message to a friend. Like, this is just all too much. So I think people need to realize that they are still going to have those weeks where it's not perfect. And they are going to drop back to what they're comfortable with. And that it's not going to be just this linear thing. For some people, it is going to be quite straightforward and they're going to jump on it straight away. For other people, there are always going to be those things that we don't expect to happen, and that it is going to like shift their deep health. And I think with that client, there was probably maybe a major stressful event, or could have been anything that just suddenly that wipes out all your other intentions and actions and that sort of thing. So when I find clients who don't adhere to the plan, even if they were ready, willing, able, they said what they wanted to do, they told me, this is what I want to do and this is how I'm going to do it. And then they come back, I let them go, and they come back a week later and I was like, did you do it? And they're like, no. And I was like, okay. So a big thing there is maybe the thing that they said they wanted to do seemed okay until they went to do it and there was something missing. And a lot of the time, there's two reasons. One is something else happened with their deep health. And we're talking about how sleep affects healthy eating and that sort of thing. It was either that, where maybe they're not pinpointing what the first element should be that they're addressing, or two is whatever action they decided to do was too big a chunk to start off with. Maybe they said, I have this client at the moment and she's very diligent and I do believe she can do it, but she's going from training with me once a week to wanting to train with me once a week and go to the gym, I think she said 3 times a week. So you're going from 1 to 4.
That's a big jump.
It's a big jump. And in my head, I'm like, oh, red flag. Do I believe she can do it? I do believe she can do it. Do I believe she can do it consistently? Maybe not, like week in, week out for the next couple of weeks. And also, how is she going to feel if she's aimed for 4, but she only hits 2? Is she going to feel at that point, oh, I failed?
Right.
Didn't hit the number. So now what's the point? Or what am I going to do now? Whereas really, like, I had this conversation with her as she was leaving and I was like, you know what? You're saying 4? Cool. Try for 4. As a coach, I'm only expecting 2. You come to see me once, you go to the gym once. That's all I'm expecting. You aim for 4. If you come back and say that you did 2, that's a gold star for me.
Yeah. That's really, really good. I love hearing you say that. I just had conversation with somebody recently where it was the exact same thing. Like, pick goals that are attainable, still challenging, still something more than you've got, but definitely attainable. Because there's that thing that happens with failure when you pick something too big. It creates such a mindset of I failed, and that's when any little forward progress is good progress. It's getting you away from the thing of the past and towards something that you want in the future. So, yeah, I love that you said that. More people need to just pick small goals. And I used to be one of those all or nothing, like jump in with everything and then go, oh crap, what did I get myself into? I've gotten older, so now I'm a little less like that, but
I used to have pages and pages of goals, and all they were was goals. There was no, how am I going to actually get to that thing? What's the plan? What's the schedule? What's the strategy? What's the tools? It was just, no, I want this, this, and this.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Dreams. They were dreams.
Yeah, they're dreams. And I wish I still had it because it was extensive and it was just not in the right direction. You know, I've come good. I've learned about all these great coaching principles. And, you know, the great thing about especially precision nutrition was that really was a catalyst for me to coach myself a lot better. And the great thing is I can now impart that on clients.
Yes.
But yeah, it's kind of crazy where, you know, you can have the best intentions, you can have all these things that you want, but really, you know, you can't control the outcome, but you can control the input.
Yep.
The things you do daily, weekly, day in, day out.
Yeah.
Hey, I got 2 more questions for you. No, 3.
Okay.
1, everything that we've covered today, is there any like red flags, like big green lights that we haven't addressed that from you as a coach you've experienced, or that you know, anything that somebody should know right now that we haven't covered already?
We didn't really talk much about nutrition, but so I'll
Mm.
just say it. Yeah,
Say
you got to have nutrition. You got to fuel that body to move that body. So, you know, get enough protein. People are underfed chronically or terribly fed. They're either underfed with good foods or they're terribly fed with all the Doritos and the Coke. You know, that's not fuel. So getting on a good nutrition plan is not hard. It's a very simple thing. You might need a little guidance, but yeah, that's a game changer. I just had a client send me a picture last night. This is just kind of like personal. This doesn't have to do with deep health, but she sent me a picture last night, and it was so cool because I know that these principles work, but when my clients start going, oh my gosh, and they start having the light bulbs go on, so much fun. But she sent me a picture because she thought she was eating pretty good. She ate healthy, but she just didn't eat enough, and she was always low on energy. And so she sent me a picture of herself flexing her biceps and grinning ear to ear and saying, I haven't even been training like back in my CrossFit days, because she doesn't do it anymore. I haven't even been training my shoulders and my back muscles, but I have my muscles from CrossFit and in my back and shoulders. Where'd these come from? You're not joking that, you know, it's all 90% in the kitchen and only 10% in the gym. Like there's some kind of adage that says that food is fuel. So we didn't really talk about it much, and because we talk about all these other principles, but nutrition is very, very, very important.
Yeah, can't be ignored. And again, when people are looking for changes, especially if they come see a health coach who's qualified with PN or as a personal trainer, like, you know, the big 2 is exercise and movement. But instead of going, say, on, you know, like a calorie controlled, eat exactly in this way sort of plan, what's missing is, I suppose, you know, what benefits the client most. But interestingly, like say, for example, for me, like I work most mornings, I'm out the door, I'm not going to have breakfast at, you know, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. I've trained myself to eat around 10, 11, 12, which works best for me. However, if I leave that too late, I have a very small window where if I don't eat, it's gonna go bad.
Yep.
So I can still have a very healthy breakfast. I have eggs, I have toast, I have avocado, whatever I want. But if it's not enough volume of food, or if I leave it too late, the rest of my day gets impacted. And I only just realized that recently. Either why am I napping at 2 o'clock again? Or, you know, why am I having really weird eating habits in the afternoon? And it comes from that first meal. I do eat what I perceive to be a very healthy, very balanced first meal, but sometimes it's not enough where I've cut myself short. Maybe I should have another piece of toast, or I pushed it too late. I pushed it to 11 to 12 when really I should have eaten at 10. So it's such a delicate balance. I don't know about you, but I don't give anyone any advice on, I don't do macros. We do hands, and we do eating behaviors as a main thing, and protein, like you you pointed out protein, and like protein's like the magical macro.
It is.
All you need is a bit more protein and you're good. So yeah, but there's just from my perspective, like nutrition can be easy, but nutrition is hard because we don't, like, the general public don't know enough about the right things when it comes to nutrition.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And most are notorious about getting, I know for myself, I would get busy and just forget to eat. I didn't have like an eating disorder or any kind of thing like that. It was just, I get busy and I get focused on something and just completely forget to eat. And then when you do that and you find yourself, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm starving. And then you're just going to eat whatever's in front of you. So whatever's convenient, which is where all those convenience foods come from. So yeah.
One thing that I want to add to, what hasn't been covered and what's interesting about these whole deep health measures is that from what I've found is that when you have low deep health, one of the things that is a symptom of that is you lack motivation to do the things that you said you were going to do or that you want to do. So when you think of it that way, what I tell clients is stop waiting for motivation. He ain't coming. He's not going to knock on your door and you're suddenly just going to wake up one day and be like, oh, I'm motivated. Today's the day. Like that just flat out does not happen. But if you do raise those deep health measures, if you do those little things, those little bite-sized things in that bite-sized time in your very busy day that you have, suddenly you feel more motivated.
Yeah.
But in reality, you've just raised your deep health. So when somebody suddenly loses a little bit of weight or body fat and they're like, oh, what changed? Chances are it's because you improved something about your deep health.
Yeah.
All right. So second to last is, and I introduced you, I have this whole angle that I'm going on with clients where we're looking at creating our ultimate end game. So it's not just about what they want immediately, but it's all the behaviors, it's all the goals, and it's all the habits that will lead them to a place where in their lives, everything just runs business as usual and they're absolutely thriving. They're where they want to be at in their career, in their health, in their wellness, everything. If I asked what your ultimate end game was, Rhiannon, what would you say?
I know you pitched this to me at the beginning of the video, and honestly, that is a really good question. I think some temperaments are predisposed to living laissez-faire, like just doing whatever. End game, and I think an end game question probably deserves a lot more thought than just an off the cuff. But if I had to answer just off the cuff, I'd say I want to live a life that by the end of it, I feel like I spent my time well, right? And for me, why deep health is important and how it feeds into that is because I can't live a life that I feel like I spent it well if I am sluggish, lethargic, unmotivated, depressed, anxious, and constantly worried and distracted by superficial matters. So for me, taking care of these fundamentals is setting me up to create a life in other areas that I can say, hey, I am glad that I spent my life like that. And whatever, investing in people, investing in relationships, doing good in the world, you can't do that when you're just trying to survive yourself, So that actually was a pretty dang good answer for off the cuff, but that's actually what's inside my heart. Like, I want to live life well. I want to get to the end of it and say, I did well with the time I had. So deep health is the vehicle for that.
Yeah. It sounds like, you described your business model and your type of client and who you're trying to serve. That just sounds like it's a reflection of you as a person and the things that you're striving for and the balance that you've achieved and just trying to maintain that, get to that level and just stay there.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. All right. Hey, Rhiannon, if people were interested in you, if they like you, if they just want to know more about you, where can they find you online?
I am on Instagram at the Silver Queen, and it's spelled funny, and it's silver because my hair is white. I started going white hair when I was 20 years old, and it just came. So the Silver Queen, though, is spelled TH3, the number 3. So the Silver Queen, all in normal letters. That's on Instagram. And then I've got a website that I actually just put up. It is Rhiannon, my first name, RHEANNON 1977 wixsite.com, WIXSITE.com.
Cool. Excellent. And you said that's a new website for you, so you're just starting to build it.
Yeah.
And from what you said, it sounds like there's some really cool things that are kind of eventuate with that website as well. So I'll be looking forward to that. All right. Hang on the line. I'm going to stop recording, but thank you so much. This has been amazing.
You're welcome.
I'm very happy we did this.
Yeah, it's been very fun. This is the first time I've ever done something like this, actually, like in the nutrition world. So thanks for having me.
Bye.